Okay, so today's tomato review is going to be on the Boxcar Willie. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the Boxcar Willie. I'm going to show you the tomato first. Now these tomatoes fell off the vine and were sitting on a floor for a little while. So it did get some speckles and some age marks. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It did get some speckles on it and some age marks and sitting on the ground. So I didn't know they were down on the ground. I had to move the vines out of the way. But these are the only ones that are ready right now. I do have about maybe 6 to 8 more sitting on there. Pretty good size, similar to this. Maybe a little bit bigger. And they're not ripe yet, so I can't pick them. They need to ripen up a little bit. But this is a pretty good average size for this. I have gotten these tomatoes much bigger. I've gotten these tomatoes maybe, like maybe half the size what you see here, larger. A good size slicing tomato, maybe 3/4 of a pound. I've gotten these as big as that. So they do get quite big. They also get much more rounder than what you see here. You can see this is kind of triangular shaped. Normally these tomatoes are very round and uniform in every aspect. This is basically, from what I understand, it's basically like a commercial grade tomato seed. This tomato is very uniform in every respect. Now I have one cut open here, and even though it's kind of ripe, this is one of the ones that fell. You see the birds got to it, and it's not quite ripe enough for me to go and taste test this one. Now, I didn't know this one wasn't quite ripe enough. So we're probably not going to eat that one. I'll try to get seed from it. But we'll cut this one open and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so that's much better. And as you can see, on the inside, the seeds are nice and attached to the rind, which is something you want to see in these tomatoes. Now this tomato I've been growing it for about 2 years or 3 years now. This, I think, is my 3rd year. I've been growing this for about 3 years. And from day one, this was my ultimate all-time favorite tomato. I have like a top 5 tomatoes, and this was in the top 5 from day one. This was absolutely delicious. I was won over 100% when I tasted this tomato. Now, I can't say that for sure this year because some of these tomatoes didn't look like they developed very well. They got knocked off the vine. We've been getting hit with storms and animals and bugs and wind and everything else, and these were on the floor. So I don't know how ripe they were before they actually fell off the vine. But nevertheless, we will give it a taste test. I don't know if the seeds are actually viable to this, but we'll take a closer look at it. You do see some wilding in the rinds, so that's a good sign for an heirloom tomato. And it has a lot of features to me that kind of indicate that it's kind of a commercial grade tomato. But it's supposedly an heirloom, and it's a highly regarded heirloom. So I can't really necessarily say that this is a commercial grade seed, but this seed can be commercialized, and then with a little bit of refining, they can take all that out of there, make this perfectly pink all the way through, the whole 9 yards. But we don't want that. We want heirloom. But yeah, as you can see, there's some dryness over here. I'm not liking that too much. They didn't develop that good this year. So let's give that a taste test and see what it tastes like. Very good tasting tomato, but it's a little low on the tang this year, and it's also slightly low on the sweet. I would probably say 25 tang, 20% in the sweetness. I've had these tomatoes develop with an absolutely wonderful flavor. This is a little bit on the blander side for me this year. I'm not saying it's a absolutely bland tomato. I'm just saying this tomato tastes a little bit more, tastes real watery in the middle. Pretty good mix between, pretty good balance between the sweetness and sour. That's good, but it's kind of on the blander side this year, and that's kind of surprising to me because I've been growing this tomato for the first couple of years and I haven't had any problems with taste or anything. This year is kind of low. I'm not thrilled about it per se. I'm not even going to put this in a #1 spot right now because I'm just not thrilled about the taste of it. It's very, very bland compared to like half of these other tomatoes I'm eating. This is a disappointment for me, actually. I was expecting this to be a #1, and I'm going to put it in a #2 spot this year, but I don't know. I'm not going to stop growing it. I'm going to keep growing it and adjusting the soil and things like that. Maybe it's just bad location, bad year. You're going to get that with tomatoes no matter what the variety of the tomato is. So I'll link you below to my older review on the Boxcar Willie. You can see my take on that tomato from last year. This year didn't do so well. Actually, a few tomatoes that I had that were absolutely wonderful tomatoes didn't do that good this year, but other tomatoes that I didn't expect to do good did good. So let me taste this half. Yeah, same thing. Kind of bland. A little on the dry side, surprisingly. Now this is a much better formed tomato on the Boxcar Willie. So maybe this one looks like they fall off the vine early. So it's very possible they're ripened off the vine, sitting on the ground for a while, and they didn't really develop the flavor. Seeds look all immature inside of those. I don't even know if I'm going to save seeds from that. They all look immature. Well, this one looks a little bit well developed. Nice round tomato. You can see the chambers on the outside, and you can see that it's a very uniform color on the inside. Very little bit of wilding in the rind. Very well attached to the rind. Now this tomato looks like it's going to taste good. So these two may be duds because they fell off early. They probably fell off green and just ripened on the bottom. That's why I don't usually pick my tomatoes green, because they never develop that rich flavor quite as good as when they do when they sit and they vine ripen. They just taste so much better when they vine ripen. What else about this? And you can see it's a great sauce tomato. It's a great cooking tomato, sandwich tomato. This one's an all-around award winner. I think there's a tomato contest or something. This was like a #1 award winner for, I don't know what it was, 2006 or whatever. You have to look that details up, but it was an award-winning tomato, and it by all means it deserved it. But let me try this piece and see if it tastes better. It looks a lot better. Seeds look more developed. Those didn't look so developed, so let's give it a try. Much better flavor. Much, much better. Definitely picked up on that rounder tomato. This one probably developed more in the vine before it fell. Much better. But the flavor was still kind of on the lower side. Definitely better than the other tomatoes that didn't really mature and ripen. This one definitely tastes a lot better. Much better. I could eat these. These I don't really even want to eat. I mean, I'll try to get seeds from them, but they're just, the flavors just, I'm not even going to eat those. I'll let the birds pick them. I'll throw them in my driveway and let the birds eat them. But this one tastes much better. Now this one I'm going to bring the tangy up to about a solid 30 and bring that sweetness up to a solid 30. But it is a watery tomato this year, and it's not very tomato-y tasting. So it's, in other words, you got your sour, right? You got your tangy, then you got your sweet. Then between that you got the watery part. And then after all of that goes down and you swallow it, you should taste that tomato flavor carry in afterwards. And that's where you get that essence of tomato. I'm not getting that from this tomato. I'm getting a very light tomato aftertaste. Very, very light. Just almost, I'm not going to say almost undetectable, but just light. We'll just say it that way. It's light. Normally this tomato is very rich in flavor, and the tomato taste just sticks around with the tang long after you've eaten it. So just really surprised that I'm not really getting such a rich, delicious, ripe fruit. But again, these fell off the vine early and they probably ripened underneath the vine and I didn't see it, so maybe that's why they're not tasting so good. So unfortunately, I don't have any vine ripened ones ready yet. I do got some more on there, but they're just going to have to wait because sometimes tomatoes can take quite a long time to ripen. The temperatures up here where I am have been going down into the low 40s and 30s. That totally affects the ripening process. Sometimes they don't ripen for long periods of time. They need to be in something like 80 degrees, 75 to 80 degrees for you to get that ripening effect. I'm just simply not getting that temperature. But nevertheless, I'm going to rate that a number 2 this year. It's overall good tomato. Like I said, you could look at my last video, how I rated it last year. It was absolutely phenomenal tasting tomato. This year it's ranking 2 because just not meeting all those flavor standards. And I still highly recommend this tomato. This is my tomato review for the Boxcar Willie. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.